Rachel, a massive welcome to the Life on Purpose podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a long time coming. Every time I'd like, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Things take time.
Yeah.
Now, I really wanted to chat a little bit about where you started, where your journey began, before we get to what you're doing now and who you're serving. I'm coming to you from New Zealand and you're coming in from LA, but where did your journey begin?
Where did it begin? I don't know. I guess it happened inside my mother. Like, let's just take it. Like, really? Does it not? Right? It's, where does it begin? It begins from probably somewhat those, for me, that moment, and then it's just forever changing. And, obviously with what is known as my journey and the idea of like, with modeling and stuff, I guess, that started when I was like 17. For what I'm known for, I guess, is when I started, was when I was 16, 17. And that started actually on the beach. I actually had a blood disorder called toxoplasmosis, and that is around cats and meat. And somehow I got this toxoplasmosis and was very, very sick. And it really changed the direction because I was actually a trained ballerina. Well, not training, it was a training to become a ballerina at that point. And it was my everything. I was a very much introvert as a child. Really loved being around animals, and just was very, very quiet child. So that kind of changed everything for me. I was sick. I couldn't actually go to school for some of my exams and stuff. So that took about over a year to get over. And by that point, I had lost so much muscle in my body, and all that training for all those years. The next thing, I started running to get my strength back, and then I was found at the beach. So it's funny because at that moment, like when you look at those pivotal parts in your life, they're actually barely any of them are planned. They don't have a preconceived, idea of like, I want that. I mean, eventually that happens. We eventually have that idea of like, we know that entry point. We know where we can put our perception. We know where we can put our attention. All of these beautiful, sayings and these incredible philosophers over the years, where you put your attention. But at that point, it was very innocent. And I think that's where a lot of natural progress happens, I guess, in my evolution, is when there is no aggressive thing and things just naturally happen, is where you naturally feel your path is. And you're not worn out by it. You're not fatigued. You're not adrenally drained. You're not like, what am I doing here? You're actually doing what you love. And I think, so that's kind of what happened. And the next thing I knew, I was in New York City and modeling.
Incredible.
I had no intention to do that at all.
That's amazing. And so it sounds like you didn't push towards that as like, I'm going to try and manifest this. You were pulled towards it. It was like something that was pulling you.
I mean, I got a blood disorder. I loved ballet. I was also an athlete at school. The idea of modeling was just ridiculous to me. I mean, I was buck tooth. I had wiry hair. I had a gap between my teeth. Like, it was not even something that I would even think of. And there you are running along the beach, and the next thing but everybody path is obviously different. But there's always those pivotal moments that happen in life that really create those huge transformational shifts within wherever you are going. If you're not either on the so-called path, you get this jarring, redirection. Or maybe not, but I had no intention to become a model at all. Had no interest in it.
So going from like no interest, not even knowing it was a thing, to then embracing it? What led to you embracing it and going, hey, this is actually pretty cool. I'm going with this for now.
I never fully embraced it. I had a great time. It was great, but it wasn't really, oh, wow, this is amazing. There was never any of that in my mind, like how incredible. I think now when I look back on it, it was amazing. Like I traveled the world and I got to, be with incredibly artistic, photographers. And I had a very good experience when I was modeling. So yeah, there was never everything I was very much like that chameleon. I just adapted to whatever happened in my life at that point. It just happened. Yeah.
It's so interesting because before we hit record, we were talking about evolution and how we evolve. And it sounds like through life, you've just evolved and you've went with it. And as you say, like a chameleon, you can adapt and grow into your circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, and I think you do, and then you have these beautiful moments where you're like, this is what I want to bring into my life. How do I bring this into my life? And you can manifest those. And there's times that happens. And then there's times when obviously when you're manifesting this, then something comes along and just completely knocks you off and goes, yeah, no, this is what's happening now. And then, how do you adapt to that? So there's this ever-changing atmosphere that's just constantly changing within, which is, I'm obviously speaking constantly from my experience because that's all I can speak from. And then something else comes along and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect it to be like this, but this is how it is. Yeah.
It's amazing. And as a high performer, as someone who was doing incredible things and traveling the world, and then say becoming a mother. So for me, becoming a father was a very pivotal moment in my life. Things changed in big style. What about for you? So when you became a mother, what changed there internally for you?
Well, I definitely didn't think I would have children that young at all. And so when I did have my kids, it was like, again, I was just like, I'm having kids. Okay, let's go. I was very, I don't know, just really just went with the flow kind of with what kind of happened and just kind of trusted, I guess. But I mean, it was that to me, all of a sudden, again, the part that was given to me as far as my two children became like the most enriching, most enlivening experience, obviously, that ever happens to you, because you become this, they become like the biggest teachers you'll ever have, because they're constantly teaching you all the time. And to have that gift in your life was pretty incredible. So again, it was something that came along that was just, again, really, really enriching and obviously life-changing. And one of the best things I've ever done in my life. But it's heartbreaking, and you're like, you're doing the same things as your parents. You go, oh, you shouldn't do that because that's going to happen, or this is going to happen. I mean, you might as well just, like, we don't learn from our parents in some ways. We still have to say the same things as what we're told that we shouldn't really say, but we say it because we've had the experience and blah, blah, blah. So yeah. But, but having the kids was incredible. And obviously in that time I got divorced and had two young children. And, there was that adjustment of, being a solo, a single parent, and then moving into that stage. And again, like, we just don't give ourselves credit that there seems to be this idea of how things should be. And the beauty of it is then that it never is. And you can do it. You've got this. We just have to trust. You just have to trust. And it's the hardest thing for me. Trust has been something, I think I wrote about it just before I left New Zealand in June. And it was still that trust, of trusting, that, and why do we keep questioning this,
That's powerful, because I think no matter who it is, we go through all these changes. We think life is set and our job is set and our family is set, and all of a sudden something major changes. So what's your advice for people who are going through change right now and it's like it's uncomfortable. They don't really want to be doing it. They didn't expect it. How can they just let go and traverse it?
There's stages. Like I think there's stages. Like there's again, I'm going to speak from my own experience. You go through the angry stage. You're like, this isn't real. This is not okay. I didn't ask for this. How did this happen? You know, and I've got this opinion. And then you're trying to change someone else's mind because you want them to think like you. Like, whoever dreamt up that? Like, you have no power to change anybody. You know, like, really. You know, as far as their thinking, the way that their opinion is, and as far as again how I see it. So, you know, I think there is again that process that we keep doing, and how do we keep doing this with more ease? You know, how do we keep doing this with less, oh my God, I'm going to go into the drama of it, rather than going, okay, this is really shitty. I've just been given the worst, you know, scenario. And now, listen, I'm talking of scenarios that obviously are normal. Obviously, when my mum got sick, that was so big. And you're looking at scenarios that are really, really devastating. I'm talking on general scenarios because, I mean, it doesn't matter. Whenever you're given news or a change, there's an adjustment period that happens, and that adjustment period could set off all sorts of ranges of emotion, from anger, or I've got this, we've got this, I can get through this fight or flight, like we can survive, like, you know, and then we go into this emotional page, you know, stage of it. Then the fire comes back, and no, I've got this, we've got this. Then there's this surrender that happens in the heart, and you just go, you know, you're either full of love or sadness. And then there's this knowledge that comes out of that. So there's this beautiful process that kind of we go through, like I go through when I go through these different stages. And obviously when it's great news, I mean, the excitement, and then you kind of get into it, and then you find that there's more depth, more, you know, like when I got into modeling, yeah, I was really excited, but then I was like, I had to deal with the fact that I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be without my parents. I miss my boyfriend. I want that. So whether it's great news, and then you've got to deal with it a little bit after, there's always this state of integration, of integrating our evolution. And at the stages of evolution, there's integration that happens. And sometimes, I mean, for me, those things can hold on for months or years, or sometimes you just snap right through them, right? I mean, you must have had situations like that, like you snap straight through it, or you can still be holding on to something when you were like 2 years old, and you've
100%.
still got a problem with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been through all different things, earthquakes and divorces and all different experiences in life, and miscarriage, and some of it was quick and easy and move on. Others it was traumatic, and you still carry it for some time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like, you know, it's amazing, because I was up here in the earthquake in 94 in Los Angeles, and, you know, to go through all those different things that were served, whether it's through natural disasters or your loved one or yourself or anything, like you said, it's just amazing, our ability. Like, we're so incredible, like we're incredible. And I think that's the reminder to self, is just how unique and how incredibly important, like, every single soul on this planet is. That's all it comes down to. And the fact is that all we want is love. And this sounds so squishy, because I've got a lot of fire in me, and I'm like, love, no, let's be fierce, let's be strong. But no, what it comes down to is the fear comes from, you know, you're scared of loss or losing. So it comes down, but the heart love is fierce. You know, it's strong. Like, when you grab your kid before he's about to go, or my daughter, you grab them, it's strong. And then there's the softness. So You've got to stop me because sometimes I go off in tangents. So
I love it. Keep going.
I just think there's this beautiful part of just understanding like how the complexities, but also the simpleness of our evolution and who we are, and how important like every single, I just wish, and we all fluctuate, if we each treated each other like it was your child or your mother or your, it would be so different, but it's not that way. And we have thoughts and feelings. But my main thing is, especially when you're going through hard times of, even with mental health, it's just like, just remember how unique you are and how beautiful are and how important you are. And importance, it's not even, you touch people's hearts no matter who you are, you touch people. Yeah.
100%. It's still relevant. I think the time that I'd reached out to you was around a time I was working at a private school in New Zealand. And I've been working there for about 13, 14 years. And we had about 10 kids who took their own lives over that period. And the teenage suicide, I didn't realize it was so bad when I came here. And so for me, it set me on this mission. I just became a dad, and I was like, okay, I need to do everything I can to understand this so that I can try and selfishly help my little boy. He's only 5 right now, but help him guide through those teenage years. And spirituality in itself, I think, is very lacking in the education system. Certainly where I grew up in the UK, and then from my experience in New Zealand, it's kind of there, maybe under the well-being tag, and it's kind of brushed over a little bit. But I see it as being like a crucial part of parenting, of living life, of engaging with others. So I look to you often, and I often follow what you're doing, because what you're doing spiritually is really inspiring. So how do you think we can, like, as linear people, often if I'm working with a client, a high performance leadership client who are maybe running a business or in a team, sometimes it's very linear. It's like results, it's metrics. It's like, how do we win? That's one side of it. But how do we get them to look at like, hey, there's actually a spiritual side to who you are, and it's important for you to thrive by tapping into your spirituality?
It's so funny because we have separated this this aspect of ourselves, because as soon as anything goes wrong, usually we're dropping to our knees, to calling somebody's name for help, right? And I think one of the beautiful parts that I learned, especially in India, is the elements that we're basically surrounded by all day long, as well as these are basically internally within us as well, as far as air and water and even the fire, the food that we eat, all that. And even to connect with nature, there's this spiritual aspect of that helps to then go further, as far as just feel that warmth, and the fact that we come from potentially, obviously, something so much bigger. And I think, when we usually, I mean, you could probably maybe say, yes, this is true, is eventually to sustain success from when you're 16 to when you die. Is that even possible?
Yeah.
So at some point there's going to be something that happens, because that's what we are. We're human, I guess. And I mean, again, like, I'm talking from my experience, and like, you go, what else is there? What else is there? And I always look to children, because when you see them in the nature, there's imagination and there's this innocence, and they're listening to nature, and they're curious, and they're talking to it, and they have their own magic that's happening there. And I think also that's a beautiful place, and I think that's where our bodies rest at ease too. And we're very, very lucky, even in England and in New Zealand, anywhere in the world, we can have this this ability to connect to nature. And there's a beautiful spiritual aspect, I feel, to nature that is literally immediate. Even just understanding, just sitting in the wind and realizing what is sustaining us, and even in that aspect. And I think also, they say that we're spirits having a human experience. But not to complicate it, but just the fact that I think that's why meditation is such a great entry point of just sinking into your own being, your own self, your own soul. You're expressing yourself, you're responsible for yourself, do you? And then from that, you will find these moments of beautiful waves of just connection and bliss and happiness. And I always say, sometimes even I look at, Rod, and I'm like, here's this man on stage living his dharma, like living his full life, bowing to his audience at the end of it, right? But there's this, he's fully living his, and that to me is spirituality too. Deep connection to the creativity that you are, the evolution that you are, living it fully, being that fully. Yeah, we're going to trip up, we're going to do things here and there because we're human beings, but really enlivening your inner, the matter of who you are, but your inner soul, your inner dharma, to me is spirituality. But if there's a dollar sign in there only, it just becomes a little bit, for me, it becomes a little bit like empty, empty, because you can sit in the big house, but you could be sitting there alone.
That's right.
And that's not fun.
Well, you look at some.
So I think nature's a great place. Meditation's a great place.
Can we chat about meditation? I'd really love to chat to you about it. So I've been meditating for maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, but I just love it. And I experience euphoria. I experience stillness. It's amazing. I just love it. So for you, where did meditation start for you? Like, how could someone get started? Most of my clients are like, James, I can't do it. Like, it's too difficult. So I try and step them through how to get started. But how would you help someone get started on a meditation journey?
I sometimes using a mantra with like the Sohum mantra, which is SOHUM, and bringing that into the attention in between your eyebrows, or bringing that attention as soon as the thought rises. Because we're going to think, we're all going to think, we're all going to sit there. Some of us have been, some people like yourself, you probably sit there and go, oh my God, did I do this? Did I do that? And then you go, okay, no, back to my meditation. Oh, but hang on, did I do this? And that happens. And then some days it can just be like you say, you just feel so still and everything is just incredibly beautiful and in that bliss state. And I think that really just connecting to your breath, finding somewhere either in the mornings or in the evenings as the sun's going down, less activity, more soothing, I think, when the sun's going down or the sun is rising. And then just connect to your breath, put on some nice music, create a sacred space. Kids are fascinated by sacred spaces too. It could be you put a plant and, I don't know, a rock, whatever it is that you've collected on the beach. I mean, whatever that sacred space is, let them find that, because it's beautiful for imagination too. I'm talking about adults too, not any. And then I think as far as an adult, finding that sacred space, you can even put some music on, but then just allowing the breath just to connect, and then just bring Sohum as a mantra to that space in between the eyebrows. And then just every time a thought rises, just bring that mantra in. And then eventually, if you bring that in, then those gaps will happen. They don't, sometimes, like I said, they don't happen all the time, but even just to do that, for 10 minutes a day is, at the beginning is great. Mantras do help though, because the mind has got something to think about then,
Like a focal point, so that we're not going in that monkey mind.
Yeah. And as far as like relaxing the nervous system, stabilizing yourself, you're able to come from, people go, oh, that's going to make me boring. No, it makes you actually more dynamic, because you're coming from a really centered place. There's nothing worse than someone going, what are you doing that for? Da, 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 da. And then you see someone who's really grounded, the force that comes out of their voice projecting, and the space they're able to hold that's grounded, strong, and almost intoxicating, because they're so grounded. You pay more attention to that, because you're like, oh, okay, I got it, but the person who's losing their mind in the corner, you're like, I mean, like, no, you're not going to listen to that.
And that's amazing for
It's
leaders.
entertaining to watch.
Yeah, from the distance. I agree. Yeah, but I guess for leaders, whether that's like a CEO, whether that's a mom, a dad, whoever it might be, a community leader, for them to learn that meditation can actually help them lead with more influence and more love. And doing that 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day can make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you actually use a mantra? Or do you use just connecting to your breath and just having a moment's peace and quiet?
I use a little bit of both. So I do a little bit of transcendental meditation where I just get some white noise and focus on my breath. And then I've got a track I play called the Devai prayer. And it's a mantra and it's stunning. So I play it for like 40, 45 minutes. And I feel like a different human afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
And you're right about kids. Like my 5-year-old boy, he knows like 5:30 a.m.'s meditation time. He will come in and he knows just to sit beside me and he listens. And he might stay for 5 minutes, but he's interested in it and he's wondering what it's about. And it's not weird to him at all.
No. And also you find animals start like sleeping. Usually if I'm doing, like I'll do a couple of courses or something every now and then, and my dog's actually snoring on his back with all his legs in the air because he's doing some chakra meditation that I'm like learning or whatever. And I'm just like going, oh my God, you are just in heaven. You're like getting all these healings.
I love it. What's your favorite type of meditation?
I love using different mantras. Like I was in India, I learned a foundation course as far as Jyotish meditation, which is the Vedic, not meditation, Vedic astrology. And so we got to learn for different times of the day, different months or whatever. There's certain mantras used for certain things. It's just, I would say the mantras are pretty incredible, but at the same time, the less I do, the more I enjoy just by even just connecting to the breath. It's very subtle. I also enjoy that. So it kind of ebbs and flows all the time. But no, I do have one meditation practice that I do, and it's Kriya and mantra based. So yeah.
And is it daily? Like you commit daily to that practice?
Yeah.
That's great. So it's like a discipline built in. It's like who you are.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And was there a point where you actually, in your life, have you always been spiritual and interested in rituals? Or was there a point where you were like, I'm getting interested in this, I'm going to follow this path?
No, so when we grew up, like we were basically born into that because mum was very, she was very spiritual. So we were brought up and born again Christian. I was baptized, received the Holy Spirit, like you name it, like Buddhism. So we kind of did quite a bit, and also pagan.
Wow.
It was quite, and I love all of it. Like I love all of it. And so it was always a part of our life all the time, whether it was meditation or whether mum was making wands or mum was painting fairies or doing art with alien, like whatever it was, we were always around it. So it wasn't anything new to me at all.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
but I think there's this kind of shrouded thing where people kind of feel they used to. I think there's so much now where they, that you kind of are nervous to bring up the fact that you like to meditate or like tarot cards or crystals or, but I mean, you look at all some of the biggest CEOs were in the Himalayas,
A number of my clients have went and did ayahuasca and they're running, like multi-billion-dollar companies. And they've been like, that ceremony changed my outlook on my life, on perspective. Others are doing, psychedelics and clinical, microdosing. And others are going to India and spending 3-4 months and just going within, but it's helping them to be better for everyone around them, including themselves.
Yeah. I think it's really given us this opportunity, and especially when last year when everything got shut down, obviously it got shut down and locked in India. And, the first kind of cries we heard from everybody is this time that we get to spend with our families, that we we're not getting in the car going to work. Don't have to do this. We don't have to do that. We'd filled our life with so much. And then it got brought to, I mean, less for New Zealand at that time. But the rest of the world was in this for a very, very long time, as you know from your family, probably in the UK, who have dealt with this for a very, very long time. That we were looking at, how do we treat the environment? How do we feel about being in? What is our relationship with our children? So all this beauty started happening in this time. I just hope it hasn't been forgotten,
And you're so right. Like, I've got a client in Canada who said, I've spent 6 weeks with my young kids and I'm treasuring it because I know this is the last time until I retire. And this guy's in his like late 20s, early 30s. Until I retire in my 60s, this is the last time I will spend that length of time with my kids. I'm like, wow, we have got life totally the wrong way around. That's such a shame. So you were locked in India. You were in India during COVID.
Yeah, I got locked in an ashram for 5 months. I was actually in Sadhguru's ashram in that time, and it was amazing. We were, I think there was about just under or just over 1,000 people, I think, were in there.
Wow.
Maybe less. I'm not sure. But then once I left, because I started coming out of there, there was a repatriation flight. So then I came into the US in the beginning of August last year. And by that stage, I had already been in 3 weeks of quarantines. Then I came back here, had another 2 weeks of quarantines. And then the US started getting really bad here. And I was here, I was exposed to COVID twice during that time, and then had to do more isolations. Then I ended up in the UK. The minute I got off the plane, it went into a double lockdown. It was
following you, Rachel.
Tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. Like, what other tiers is there for me to get involved in? So everywhere I went, it just got like, and then I came back here. So, I mean, when I counted it up, I'd actually been in 4 months of isolations by myself. And once I'd gotten back here to the US after I tried to see my children, and I couldn't because the UK, it was so bad. I came back here to quarantine before I got on the plane to New Zealand. And we had to wipe my dog down because the UK variant was being so bad at that point. So there was so much. There was so much. And we had to wear our masks outside. That was when you had to wear your masks outside as well, because it was, there was so much information that was just, And so I think by the time I got to New Zealand, I was absolutely, I don't think I really went out to dinners very much. I kept to myself. I was by myself a lot for those 5 months I was there. I did some retreats, and it made me nervous. I was very nervous because I was like, when is this thing gonna hit? Like it because you're used to being around it, and it's how you open a door, it's how you put your mask on, how many times are you touching your, and I know everybody has their opinions, and with theories and all the rest of it, and everyone to each their own, but I'm just doing me and just following whatever needs to get done, And
that's awesome. And I think you're right. There's like a neurological conditioning that happens when you're exposed to it and you wear a mask and you're sanitizing. It changes how you think about yourself and the world around you.
Yeah. And literally when you're pushing doors open with your feet, you're using your elbows. Like at that stage, it was just how do you use your body in order to, not get this thing. And it was just there was so much unknown at that point. But now, when I came back from New Zealand and I came back here, I've been living with it since it came out, but at the same time, I feel we're open here, and it's open.
And that's great.
Yeah.
And do you feel like
there's less stress on, I found for me, it was less stress because I knew how to be I knew what I needed to do, and yeah, and I'm responsible for myself and responsible for other people, you know. And when I do even seasonal things, I would get, I mean, I tested like a lot in New Zealand because I have allergies. And I was like, I was so used to testing that I was testing in New Zealand. I remember a
That's
friend
a
of
foreign
mine said there was
concept for
somebody,
me.
I know, like I do it myself. I mean, when I got out of MIQ, I went and quarantined still again at home, because I was just like, what if I got it on the way out? You know, the over responsibility of it, and it caused a lot of stress.
I bet.
Yeah.
See, I followed your tour of beauty a number of years ago. That it was an amazing show that you put on, and you really researched all the different cosmetics and all the different foods that we can eat. So do you feel that some of your learnings in life around nutrition and around spiritual practices, do you think that can help boost your immunity during times of crisis?
I always love like researching all that kind of, you know, stuff, and definitely I do include things into my life as far as like, you know, getting the right amount of air and the meditation, as well as using the right, you know, vitamins or whatever. Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. But I don't want to say any one particular thing, because I think people should really find out what their bodies are, because we're so different, and there's so much incredible information out there in regards to vitamins and stuff, that, I mean, people can do that for themselves. You know, the anti-inflammatories. I mean, I've always taken what they, you know, the D's and the C's and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that became pretty much routine when you're traveling through. In fact, I remember I would always take the zinc chewed, like the infant ones. And yeah, I just always took the typical stuff that we were told to take in the last 18 months.
Yeah, of course.
That's all I'll say yes to.
And what about breathwork?
Vitamin C, zinc.
I love it. I'm the same. I take all the basics, and it's I guess covering it off with nutrition is probably, to me, I find that I try and stay plant-based with my eating, and that definitely helps.
Absolutely, plant-based, and also less sugar. You know, less of the breads and stuff as well. So I definitely eat a lot more plant-based food. I would eat healthy. You know, I've adjusted. Obviously, my metabolism has changed as I'm getting older. I do pranayama, like breath work, the yoga. I walk 10,000 steps at least a day on top of doing that. So it's just really keeping active, as well as, you know, I want to, you know, besides what's going on right now, I want to live a good life. I want to be active. You know, I want to keep, you know, you want to keep that moving.
And the prana is so interesting. The breath, like, I've done a lot of stuff with Wim Hof's breath work, and I've really enjoyed it. So do you have any breath like techniques or anything that you use on a regular basis?
Oh my God. Yeah. You know, there's the simple breath work, and then there's the pranayama, which you can really, you know, with the different holds and the different, you know, using the breath as you're working through stuff and creating really you know, strong pranayama exercises. But I think also, just again, meditating at first, doing simple breath work, just connecting to your breath, just stabilize your system at first, because I think it's really important to come from a stable place with that. And then, you know, being with a great teacher, or, you know, obviously Wim Hof is incredible with what they have a certain system that works, and it's pretty amazing. From what I've seen. Yeah.
Well, I've been checking out what you offer, so I'd love to chat just a little bit about what you do and how you can help people who are listening. So I've seen the rituals with Rachel. That looked awesome. Oh, I got a little visitor. Hey, buddy. For those listening,
this is
on the
my
podcast,
little old. He's sitting there patting my leg, and I'm going, "You're like,
bring him up."
He's actually a little bit. He's diabetic, bless him.
For those who can't see the video, when you're just listening on Apple, we've got a beautiful little dog on screen. Gorgeous. He's stunning. What's his name?
Oh, you know what? His name was Chief, then it became Relic, and then everybody just called him Baby, because he looks like a baby bear. He's actually getting older now. Anyway, we're not going to do the dog thing right now, the small dog. I've owned big dogs my whole life, by the way. This is the first tiny dog I've ever owned, and he's the biggest attitude out of all my dogs. So
I love it. I love it. Well, let's chat about rituals with Rachel. So
yeah,
how can people engage with that?
so it's a different exercises, basically kriyas. So I really wanted to, there's this of what is your intention when you go into something, what is the action, and what knowledge are you feeling when you come to the end of that, you know. And that might be just that you're sitting in the bliss and the happiness, or you feel like more energized. And so the pillars that I really love working for are, they're not even pillars, they're ancient you know, energy that basically I looked at when I was in India. And you know, what is the will, what is your intention behind something? Like, when, you know, we're talking about manifesting, but when you go into the gym, if you're just putting one foot in front of the other, fine, go, like, I'm sure it's going to do something. But if you're going to go, you know, and I'm sure you speak to this probably with all the work that you do, but if you're going to do, your experience is what you put into it. And when I love to say, like, you can blame a teacher, you can blame anybody externally you want, you know, that's the easy way out. Or you can, you know, and you know what, some teachers may not be the teacher that you want, and you need to find someone with a better voice or a different, and that's perfectly fine. But like, what is your intention? Like, you know, bringing your hands to your heart, as you're bringing just the power of your hands, like, just if you go like that, the heat that is going on between your hands right now is crazy.
Yeah.
And so when you join these two, like the left and the right, you're drawing masculine and feminine. So you're immediately uniting, you know, the masculine and feminine, you know, and then bringing it to the heart is, there's a huge electromagnetic field there. So the heart really, so really bringing, like, what do you want? What is your intention when you start something? You know, is it love? Is it gratitude? Is it trust? Is it you just want to explore? So what is your intention? And so from here, to carry that, obviously there'll be an evolution with different types of exercises or breath work that you're doing, but throughout that will change. And then through the kriya, which means action, so you're creating this heat in your body, or that the action of pulling down, or really, like, you know, because again, we can go like that, or you're you know, or you really, you know, creating that, you know, resistance, letting go, you know, letting go, resistance, letting go, resistance. Like, what kind of intensity are we living our life? And then obviously after this, we really feel this moment, you know, you'll feel the heat, or you'll feel the cooling effect, or whatever it is. And I'm talking about mainstream life. This is not just about the exercises or whatever is in there, but you know, what is your will? What is your action? And from there, you can speak from the knowledge. Now, that knowledge could be silence, and that could be everything. So from intention and action, from that comes your wisdom, you know, your experience, what you experience and what your wisdom is. And I mean, especially with how, I mean, I've spent, and I cannot wait to go back to India, and India is just opening up soon, is how I'm taught is we experience it first, and then to speak from it, you know, then you can speak from it. If I just read a book, I couldn't teach you, but what I can teach you is from experience. And that's what makes us all so beautiful and special, is like what you're into, what the other person is, you're experiencing that. And that intensity, when you're telling me of what you're experiencing, draws me in. But if you're just running your mouth off some other thing, I mean, that's, you know, it's, you know, great. Like, that person said that quote, but what's your quote? What's your 3 words? What's your quote? What's your story? I want to hear that, because I don't really care about the other, you know, And yeah, so I mean, that's what makes writers just so incredible, because you're really experiencing what they've written through these pages.
That's really powerful, Rachel. Like that hits me pretty deep. That's phenomenal in this world of like digital dementia and everyone, you know, so connected and hyper connected and sharing and swapping and quoting. Like our story is the one that matters, and that's the one that people who love us want to hear, right? They want to hear our story, not our theorized version of what we picked up in a book.
Yeah. And I think when there's like, you're going to put a quote from a book up because you just experienced it, that hit you hard. I've always noticed if I put something on Instagram when it's not backed with how I actually feel, I don't know, this is weird to say, but you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction is there. Like there is no reaction. And the same thing I think in life, like if you read an amazing quote or have an experience, then that's because you're going to put that up, and you know, it's so backed with the experience of what you just went through, whether you read it, whether you experienced, or, you know, someone's dying or someone's just getting married, but this is this euphoric feeling that you had and it hits people. Life is experiences. We are human beings. We're not made to, you know, just sit there and read from no.
It's not an algorithm.
And that's the beauty, I think, of children, is because we get to see them and we get to watch them and we watch them play, and every single one of them is different, but they'll all come back with a different story. They'll all come back with a unique unique experience, a unique emotion from it. Yeah.
Such honestly a great way to think about it. I learn from my son more than I learn from most other people around me. He's 5 years old, but I'm learning every day about perspective, about patience, about boundaries, everything. He's teaching me so much. And I think you're right. If you don't have children, go and be around children and learn from them.
And also that childlike quality in us to be a know-it-all, like that, trust me, I've been there. Like the person who has to know everything.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been in that place?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so we can all put our hands up, be going,
100%.
I just want to be the know-it-all. I just want to be like, I know. And I've been practicing this because I'm like, a know-it-all. Like that's no fun to be around a know-it-all. Yet, like, you know, when you just be quiet and listen to someone else's story and just let them have that moment, listen to them and let them have that experience, and yet you're just clouding it by going, oh yeah, no, I did that already, it's fine. Everyone's done everything before. Everyone's written a book. Like, you know, not everyone's written a book, but they've written a page or an essay or whatever. I mean, there's been plenty of books written. So I think that it's being a know-it-all is, you're not listening. And I think there's this beautiful part too, as far as listening to people and not saying anything. Because while I was in India, by the way, I did 19 days of silence, and that was a whole other.
Wow. Now, they say that there's a certain point. I've never experienced, I would love to do it. And people say, James, you could never be silent for more than 5 days. And there's a certain point where there's like an inner like breakthrough or a discovery, or there's something deep within you that happens and it's very emotional. Did you experience that?
So I went into silence, and I came out because I kind of knew that I actually was like, oh, do I have allergies? And I knew this virus was around, but I actually never got mad. Like I never got like, until probably like day 14, and then it didn't last very much, but I just kept going. And yeah, I don't know, I actually was quite fine. And at times I thought, have they forgotten that I'm in silence? Because you have to wait for someone to come and wait. And I was like, have they forgotten that I'm and then like, you know, 2 days later, basically we were locked down in the country. Like they shut like everything was shut down. But it is, do you know what happens is basically all these stories come up. Is what happened with me. Like, this happened when I was a child, this happened when those then, maybe this was a past life experience, maybe this, maybe that. And then all of a sudden, none of it matters anymore. And within that moment, for me, my experience was then I could just start living and being me. Because why am I identifying with these stories that are only making my life, my path harder, when I can just drop them? And that's what happened for me in the silence, was the stories dropped. And I was like, this is not whether I was something in a past life. This is about now. This is me right now, whether I'm multidimensional or I have this, because when people say you have, realities, all the rest of it, but this is me right now. This is my experience. And this is how I'm going to be in life. I'm going to, and it's very hard to be in the now. I mean, we constantly, but the stories started dropping. So it was really amazing.
Sounds amazing. It sounds like something I need to do. It sounds phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Rachel,
and I think to do it in places that people teach that.
You don't try and do it at home like a DIY.
No.
Yeah, that would be it'd be a funny Irish joke in that for sure, I bet.
Yeah.
So tell me this, where can people come to join your community, to learn from you and be part of your journey?
God, it's so funny. Like, well, obviously my website, I have that, and I also have the online rituals with Rachel Hunter, which I want to develop more into just even rituals that we do in everyday life. But also I do meditations, and I will be doing probably more free meditation at some point. And yeah, I mean, right now I don't know it'd be interesting. I'm just in this place where I just don't even know what to say, because there's so much noise. And for me right now, I just, I'm just, and I love teaching the classes. So I do on my website, there is events that I do. I'm doing breath classes on Saturday mornings with people who want to join there. So I just kind of am slowly building that and just seeing what that looks like.
That's fun. Well, I'll make sure everyone that's listening, please go and follow Rachel on Instagram and check out. Yeah, I'll make sure all the socials, I'll share this all with all of your details so people can actually connect with you. You've got so much to share, and it's phenomenal. And we do want to learn. We look to you and we see what you're doing. It's like, wow, I don't have the skill set, the knowledge, experience, and you do have those lessons and learnings. You've lived in an ashram. This has been part of your life, and you've got a lot to teach others.
Oh, you're very sweet. No, it's honestly to see all your stuff on, God, what's happened with you too. You just must be like, everything that's just unfolded for yourself though, right?
100%. Yeah, it's been the last 2.5, 3 years have just been massively transformational.
Like, it's just, and again, like living in your dharma, like, do you not love waking up doing what you do? Like with all the people that you do it with, and just life is just incredible.
It's amazing. It truly is. I've got an energy and a passion, and I don't wake up going, oh, what's Monday? I love Monday. I wake up for Monday. Monday is the best.
Yeah.
And there was a moment, I was actually at a Tony Robbins event many years ago, and I had this like moment, and it was during a meditation. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm not enjoying my life. I'm not doing what I think I should be doing. What's stopping? And it took me about 6 months or 12 months to figure out what I needed to do. But I'm so lucky and so fortunate to connect with amazing people like you, and to coach the people that I coach, and to be a dad to Finn and have a lovely partner. I'm very fortunate.
So let me ask you something. So when you do go into these, these funks where you actually just you're in your own void of rediscovering yourself yet again, do you encourage people to stay within that void, or do you say these are the steps you need to take to get out of that?
Great
and before
question.
it hits a spot where you go, that's going into not depression, but like into, you need to snap that and break it off. You need to own your shit. Like, let's go. Like, at what point? Because I mean, there's so many times, especially, you know, up here, obviously New Zealand's getting into somewhat longer lockdowns. But up here has been long lockdowns in London. And I remember waking up and putting my feet on the floor and going, what is going on? Like, where do I fit into the world right now? You know, like, where do you fit in? And so how do people live in that void of rediscovering themselves? Because we all do it. I'm in that chameleon phase again. Like, where do I fit in? Because there's so much of this out there, the self-help and this wellness and spirituality. Where do you fit in? So how do you break that with, like, what can you give advice to people? Just because, sorry, yes. I'm swapping shares, but I think it's really interesting to hear from, like, yeah.
I love it. Well, I think we all want to find our uniqueness, and exploiting our uniqueness in the service of others. To me, that's the greatest thing we can do. And I mean, exploiting in the most beautiful, holistic, like harmony way. So when people are struggling, and I've been there, I've struggled, like, what am I doing? What is life about? Why am I doing what I do? I think you need to sit in it, and you need to feel the pain. And there's a point where you're kind of like going around in circles. At that point, you want to get out of the holding pattern, but you actually need to sit in the pain, because when the pain's not enough, then you kind of just settle for mediocrity. It's like, oh, whatever, I'll stick with this job, it's fine, or this relationship, it's okay. And I think we do need to hit a point where the pain has enough leverage on us, where we go, okay, I need something to interrupt my pattern. And that could be a coach, that could be a death in the family, it could be a splitting of a relationship, it could be immigration. But breaking patterns are generally not pleasant, and they're not expected. So I think once you get to that pain point, you're like, I've had enough, I'm frustrated. I don't know where you feel it, but when I'm frustrated and a bit lost and stuck, I feel it in my solar plexus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
So that's where our fire, with the solar plexus, you know, I'm sure you know the chakra that it's in. That's where our will, our drive, how we see, like, where we see things, like, it's
hard.
It is. And the holding, like, you're holding your breath there. Like, I mean, I find, and I wait for those moments, and they surge up. Like, right now I'm in one, like, I'm barely not post, like, I mean, you go, oh, I'm not posting on, like, you have this accountability, right? And then I go, hang on a second. And this is where I think it's important too, is say your truth, because there's someone else out there. Like, I'm in a funk, and I've been in a funk, like, if that's what you want to say. But even coming to that surrender, right, is just being honest and going, actually, I have no idea what to say. I'm in this place. And then speaking from your truth. And I've always found those just it flushes, because it's like you're holding, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You liberate yourself when you actually admit, hey, I don't know what to say here. I'm stuck. I'm lost.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Exactly.
And often we overthink
the hardest thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably
it's so liberating.
It is. And the biggest breakthrough I've found is when you're thinking about something like, I need to figure out who I am. I need to figure out what my purpose is. I need to figure out what to do next. When you stop trying to figure it out, when you stop asking the question, it arrives.
It's literally the universe goes slap across the face. Like, what do you mean? You're you. Stop it.
Totally. And we need that from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah. You really do. Like, and someone always said to me, well, who you're meant to be is it's right in front of you every day. And I used to get so angry at that. And I'm like, what do you mean it's right in front of me every day? Every day I'm like I'm looking for the signs. I'm looking at the person who's got this, and okay, I've got that. Is it that? No. It was like, who am I? Like, not the identity to I, but what is my dharma? Like, what am I passionate about, which is, like, you're talking about, that the solar plexus thing, that passion, that drive, that, you know, and that gets stuck. So flushing that out and going, you know, like, if someone said to me when I came back from India, like, what when did you become spiritual? And I was like, we always are. And you know, the modeling and my incredible husband, ex-husband, and my kids and everything were all there. It's all that made this and is still part of my life that happened. And it's just like sometimes you go off these little tangents and you go off the path and you're going through, you know, a thorn bush and you've got scratches, or else you're in a, you know, in an amusement park for a bit, but you're going to come back to that place again. And yeah, and that truth is everything. Truth and honesty and trust is incredible. And when it's coming from that place of fierce love, is you can't falter that.
And the trust is with yourself, right? Trusting yourself, like, because often, as you say, the narratives that we have about our life and who we were and what we did and why we did it, that just keeps us stuck.
Yeah. Oh, the stories, those stories, you know, the identities that we've attached ourselves to. You don't have to suffer with that. But obviously there is really incredible, you know, things that people have obviously gone through that need to deal with it in a professional way. But in some, you know, that just need to pass through this, then you need to, you know, stop identifying I came from, you know, this and whatever. Yeah. And live in your truth.
And I love that word dharma. Like it just kind of describes that whole essence perfectly. It's perfect. And I always think your why should make you cry. So you said a minute ago about your passion. So what is your, I know we'll wrap up pretty shortly because I know you've probably got ahead, but what's your passion? What makes you cry? What gets you emotional?
Sometimes it would just be the oddest thing that makes me just start crying and that's happened since I've been doing the work that I've been doing. And they call it grace because it just arises. And it just is really beautiful because it can be something that you don't even know somebody, but it's not from a conditioned purpose. It's not from a conditioned place of identity. Oh, that hurt me. Or I'm crying that because I can understand that. But this place of wow, that person is just so beautiful, or that is just so beautiful, that grace. So there are no conditions to it. That it is just, it is what it is. But one thing that did one of my passions was whenever I needed to cry when I was a kid, is I went and saw Gorillas in the Mist, because animals to me just have this ability to get my Achilles heel all the time, as far as just their, you know, as we see an animal, when it runs, it's running because it's got its purpose, it's got its passion, it's going for food, it's going after a certain mate. You know, a flower who's bruised, it blooms, it doesn't go, oh my God, I'm bruised, I can't do that. So there's no identities to these breakdowns, is what we would see them. They're fully just blooming because they're incredible. And yeah, they're bruised, but they're just as incredible because they're bruised. You know, the flower petal. So I mean, as far as like my passion is just seeing someone who is fully living in their dharma, who they are, like they're alive inside. And I don't care what they do, but their passion when they walk in there, that can be from anyone who comes in and fixes your TV, but they just love what they do. Like, watch that. They're painting the house because they love what they do. And that's why there's no, in my book, there's none of that superior. Everybody's doing, you know, some people, yes, we have to survive. We've got to do our work. We've got to do, you know, certain things. But when we're living in that place because we love what we do, and it's a privileged place at times, very privileged. And in those circumstances, in some ways, is not okay. But just watch the beauty in that, like how someone just sits on the lawn. Like, how many times have you sit with it? you see this man who's mowing the lawn. It's like watching a symphony. Like he's got his headphones on and he's just driving, making these patterns in the lawns.
I know.
It's amazing.
Totally.
You know?
Or a baker, someone who's baking and they're creating something, there's that passion that oozes out of them.
Yeah. So just watch for that, because that's what's so incredible. The person who looks after plants, like this, whoever these, scientists or whatever, like seeing someone fully love what they do and be in their dharma, whatever it is really what brings tears to my eyes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people see that when they see you, and that comes through. And so when I do see some of your posts come through or some of your lives, I can see that you are sharing something you're passionate about, and that in itself is inspiring. So whatever you do, please continue with that.
I will. I'm not. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love what I do. And I just, you just go be you, go express yourself, go live your life, go experience stuff. Yeah, things are a little bit hard right now. I know there's been an adjustment in New Zealand, but it's going to shift, and there's going to be an integrative part of that, I'm sure, at some point. And everyone's just so special, and I hope to see people along the path.
I'm sure you will. And one last question just before we wrap up. If you had to give your children any advice, or grandchildren, or somebody you loved, and it was advice around leading their life on purpose, what advice would you give them to lead their life on purpose?
Oh. Do you know, lead your life on purpose. To me, there's such an evolution of purpose that it consistently changes. So be willing to change.
Beautiful.
Always. There may be one idea that you have, but be willing to have a not so much this, but more that, because that might not be actually what you might be doing. You might be doing something that's within that field. So I would say just make sure you're just willing to change and change your purpose. Purpose changes consistently, and be willing to make that change. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a Rachel Hunter quote right there. Be willing to change. Always. I love that. Always.
Yeah. We're just such incredible creatures, and our adaptability is just incredible. We're playing into this rigidness right now. Like, just do what you need to do. Let's get living life again, and be open and chat and evolve from. We're evolving.
Totally. That's amazing. Yeah. What you've shared with me gives me lots of food for thought. So I have no doubt that the listeners will be feeling the same way. So Rachel, I want to say a heartfelt thank you for taking the time to connect. And I look forward to connecting with you again. I'll certainly be looking out for any of your programs that are coming up, particularly the meditation and breathwork ones. I'll be interested for sure.
Oh, no, amazing. I'd love to do some, I was actually doing some men's class, workshops too. And it was so amazing to be a part of the men's workshops, just men only actually too, and it was really beautiful. So hopefully
we need it. Us men need it.
Absolutely. The more we think collectively as unity is where we're really going to evolve. There's there's that unity of just, having that respect for each other is really important.
100%.
Yeah,
I agree. Well, Rachel, thank you
for everything you do. Thank you.
That's my pleasure. I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Take care. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the content today, please smash that subscribe button below. And if you want to become part of my community, I've got an amazing free Facebook group. Please come and join us. The link is in the description below. And also, if you've got any questions about today's session, I'd love to know. Just comment below and I'll be sure to get back to you guys. Have the most amazing day.